welcome to this week's America Tonight. I'd like to welcome Selectwoman and candidate for State Representative, Ms. Colarusso. It's a pleasure to have you here, Ms. Colarusso.
Good to be here.
Today I'll be asking you some questions about you and your campaign. First, tell us a bit about yourself personally.
Okay, my name is Caroline Colarusso. Nice to meet you. I think we met over at the town center at the farmers market. I am married to my husband. We live in Stoneham. We've been married for 26 years, and we have 3 sons, 26, 25, and 18. My 2 oldest boys just purchased their first home, so they moved out, but they are in Stoneham. And my youngest boy, Richard, is a freshman at Boston University. He just started there about a month ago. And we enjoy lots of sports in my family. My sons all played all the contact sports, football and hockey, so that was great. And my mom also lives with us. She's a big part of our family. She's 82 and she suffers from Alzheimer's. And we have 3 rescue dogs, Dandy, Gracie, and Angel.
All right, great. So I understand you're currently running for state representative for the 31st Middlesex District. How's your campaign doing right now?
I think we have a good campaign. We certainly have lots of enthusiastic volunteers. Our campaign is comprised of 100% volunteers. We don't have any paid staff. We have a mix of volunteers from Winchester and from Stoneham as well. Mm-hmm. And as I think you know, we do a lot of door knocking with the campaign.
Yeah.
You see me out in the street door knocking. And we do events, fundraisers, and we sign hold standouts on the weekend, and we've been able to reach a lot of voters in the district, so we're very pleased with that.
It's great. Do you think your campaign has a good chance of winning this election?
I do. Last election, we came really close to winning. And this election, it seems like there's more broader support in both towns, and I think some of that comes from being on the Board of Selectmen in Stoneham, mm-hmm. and having accomplished some really good things for the citizens of Stoneham. Winchester's the next town over, and word travels pretty fast. So I think overall, people are happy with the work that I do, and I think it certainly helps in this race.
All right, great. How do you feel about taxes in our district?
Okay, well, we're taxed at the federal level, we're taxed at the state level, and we're taxed at the local level. Mm-hmm. And part of my platform of my campaign is to roll the sales tax back from 6 1/4 to 5%. I agree with Governor Baker. He also supports that. Mm-hmm. You know, folks today, if you look at their disposable income, it's shrinking. And a big part of that is because of taxation.
Yeah.
And when you look at all the things that we need to do as government and all the different ways that, that folks are taxed, it becomes burdensome. Mm-hmm. And what we've done in Stoneham to relieve some of that is within the last year, I've been on the Board of Selectmen, I've been on the Board of Selectmen a year and a half, but within the last year we've made a lot of strides in taxes. We were able to lower the tax rate, mm-hmm. Real estate tax rate, residential tax rate. We were also able to lower the trash fee, and we're also able to lower the water rate. So those 3 things really help the pocketbooks of our residents and our citizens. Sometimes it's hard to lower taxes locally, but there's fees and there's other ways that you can help residents and put more money back in their pocket. But statewide, I do believe that the sales tax should be rolled back to 5%.
Okay. How about education?
Very, very important. Education.
I would agree.
My 3 sons, first of all, I was the first female in my family to graduate from college, so I'm pretty proud of that. But my boys,
where did you go to college?
I went to Emmanuel College in Boston. Okay. And my boys all came through the public school system. Yeah. And they all graduated from the public schools and attended college, got their undergraduate degrees. My oldest boy attended Bentley University, mm-hmm. and he's now a CPA. My middle boy attended Suffolk University, and he works in healthcare IT. Mm-hmm. And my youngest boy is at the Western Business School at Boston University. But all that was possible because of a strong public education. Mm-hmm. It's foundational to so many things, and here's the way I look at it as a parent, having raised children. A good public education allows you to compete globally. Yeah. To get into a really good college or university. which allows you to then graduate, which allows you to then compete in the job market, which allows you to secure employment.
It's like a domino effect.
Which allows you to become a homeowner and prosper. And my two, as I told you at the beginning, my two oldest sons just purchased their first home, and I was thrilled because every parent wants that for their children, to see them prosper and to see them be independent and get on their own and you know, get out there and spread their wings. So I'm pleased to say that.
Great. How can you help make education here even better?
Okay, great question. I believe in maintaining high educational standards, and that's why I don't support the Common Core initiative. MCAS, we were #1 in the country with MCAS, and our students in Massachusetts do extremely well.
Right.
And to me, it's counterintuitive to lower the standards rather than maintain high standards, set the bar high for the students so that they can achieve more. Because as I said, when it's time to compete and when it's time for them to graduate, they're competing in a global marketplace. And if our standards are lower, then our kids don't have the same opportunity as other kids that are competing in young adults. So.
Okay. Do you believe MCAS is a good thing or a bad thing?
I believe MCAS was a good thing and is a good thing.
Okay.
I support MCAS, yeah.
All right. What are some other issues that are important to you?
Well, small business growth is really important because that affects the economy and it affects jobs. I've been endorsed by the National Federation of Independent Businesses. And also locally, we've been able to achieve quite a few things in terms of small business growth. Before I got on the Board of Selectmen, we had a lot of vacant storefronts in Stoneham, and that isn't good for your local economy. People looking for a home don't want to see vacant storefronts. They want to see a community that's thriving, that it's a good local economy. So we were able to incentivize things in a way that attracted small businesses. We've been able to fill many of the storefronts that were vacant. And also one of the interesting things that we did in Stoneham was to pass the Commonwealth's first TIF, Tax Incremental Financing Plan. Okay. What that allows for is it allows somebody to purchase a property and to invest in that property, make improvements, perhaps make part of it retail and the other portion of it mixed use. But what it does is it allows for that person to be taxed at the pre-improvement value, enter into a contract with the town for X amount of years. So if someone wants to come in and take a sort of a rundown property or a property that needs improvement, they can count on for X amount of years that they're going to be taxed at this steady rate. So that allows them to invest more. And what that does is it creates jobs. Right. So that if there's a restaurant there or there's construction, so that'll stimulate the local economy. So it works for the town and it also works for the investor and for the economy.
You talked about vacant storefronts. A big issue in Winchester in the past couple of years has been the proposal to build a mega CVS in Winchester. What do you think about that?
The feedback that I get from residents is mixed. Lots of folks don't want that mega CVS there. They feel it's not appropriate for the area, and I certainly can understand that, and I can understand how they feel. And I think perhaps they'd be more open to something smaller scale CVS there. But you know, the other thing to consider also is that you do need some commercial growth in Winchester.
And right now, that lot is just empty with old buildings.
Yeah. In terms of business growth, you really do need some to offset the residential tax rate here. So what would be nice is if everyone could kind of work together and come up with something that was appropriate for the neighborhood and that people would be amenable to.
All right, great. Tell us about some of your other accomplishments as Selectwoman in Stoneham.
Okay, well, one of the major accomplishments that I'm really excited about is, have you ever been to the Stone Zoo before?
Yep.
Okay, cool. So the Stone Zoo is a landmark, and people come to visit the Stone Zoo all the time. So what we wanted to do was sort of promote the whole area, the Fells area, the Stone Zoo. And so another Selectwoman and myself got together and tried to have a bus stop installed there so that folks from Boston could come up and visit the zoo for the day and enjoy it and enjoy the fells and those types of things. So we were working on this for about a year, and there was one hurdle that we had to overcome, and that hurdle was the fact that we couldn't rely on the state to finance the zoo stop. The bus would drive by,
Right.
but the stop had to be ADA compliant. It needed some construction work and et cetera. So what the state tells you is you can get in line and wait for your turn till the funding's available. And as you know, things at the state, there's a revenue shortfall there. So that's problematic. But what we decided to do as a board, and it was unanimous, all 5 members of the board voted to appropriate, I think it was under $10,000, to have the construction costs paid by the town so that we could expedite the stop. And so those funds were appropriated last, I think, March or April. The construction is going to start now, if it hasn't started already, and hopefully by the time the zoo lights come at Christmas, people will be able to visit from Boston and come up and enjoy the area. We think it's a really nice place to visit, and people come from all over. When we talk to people, when we go out there, they come from all over. They come from Vermont, they come from the western part of the state,
wow.
to visit the zoo. So we're really proud of that.
So this bus stop, is it going to be like an actual station, or is it just going to be a stop?
It's going to be a stop, but what it will do
Okay.
is hopefully people that want to visit, they'll be able to recognize it. It'll
Right.
make it easier for them,
Yeah.
and they're more apt to take it up.
Okay. Big question coming up about big issue in this district. Tell us about your opinion on Forest Ridge and Chapter 40B.
Great question. It's not only is it an issue that's pertinent to Winchester,
Yeah.
it's an issue that's pertinent to the district because we've been
Right.
dealing with it in Stoneham for a while.
Yep.
I tend to be clear on my opinions, and I tend to just tell it like it is, so I'm going to do that with you on this question.
Okay.
I believe that the Chapter 40B law needs amending, and I've been running my campaign on that. And there's a few reasons for that, and I'd like to tell you a little bit of a story.
Okay.
Stoneham High School sits on Franklin Street, and right across from Stoneham High School is Weiss Farm. A developer is proposing to place a multi-unit complex there.
Right.
If you've ever driven between Melrose and Stoneham, there's lots of traffic in the area. Our high school's right across the street. It's the worst possible location to put something like this.
Yeah.
So the town's people became upset, and we made an appropriation for $250,000 to fight this development, and we've been fighting it now for several years.
Yeah.
In a position to possibly swap it out to a piece of property down on the Woburn line. There's only so much you can do with Chapter 40B because it's used in a way to strong-arm communities. Communities don't have a lot of input.
Right.
So as far as the Forest Ridge project goes, I oppose the Forest Ridge project for many reasons. I oppose it as a Stoneham Selectwoman, and I oppose it as a candidate for state representative.
Okay.
It's a bad location. There's lots of congestion and traffic there. And if you ever sat in traffic on Forest Street, you know exactly what I'm talking about. But more important to that, and at the core issue of Chapter 40B, is that it's not income-based affordability, it's
Right.
market-based, so that
Right.
it really isn't affordable
Exactly.
because the rates in this area, in this
Sure.
region, are very high. And also, you know, it's going to add population, it's going to add students, it's going to add a lot of infrastructure impacts, and there's no provision in that law to compensate communities.
Right.
So oftentimes there's mitigation money that comes along with the project, but it's not, it doesn't cover any of those ongoing costs. You have to hire more police, you have to hire more fire, you have to hire
Yeah.
more teachers. Those folks get paid, they get
Right.
raises, they get pensions. So in the long run, it doesn't work for communities.
Right.
So I am very much in favor of amending that law and giving communities more autonomy in the process and having the Commonwealth work side by side with communities rather than say, we're going to do this because we can
Right.
under Chapter 40B.
Okay. So why should voters choose you over your opponent? What are some ways that you're better than Michael Day
Okay.
for this position?
Well, I'm the only candidate that has any municipal experience that's running.
Yeah.
I feel that's foundational and critical to becoming state representative. I served, prior to being on the Board of Selectmen, I served for 5 years on the Finance and Advisory Board.
Yeah.
And you really have to understand how town government works and
Right.
its reliance on state government, because it relies on state government for many things.
Yeah.
And you have to form a partnership. I've been able to work with so many people from various boards, people that I'm a Republican. I work with most of the people that serve on the boards in Stoneham are Democrats.
Yeah.
But I've been able to work for the betterment of the town and partner for the betterment of the town. And I think that's important. And I think on Beacon Hill, there's a lot of partisan politics
Yeah.
taking place there. And one of the reasons I wouldn't vote for my opponent is that he's voted with the speaker over 99% of the time. That's a problem. You have to be an independent thinker, and you have to be able to do what's right for the district.
Yeah.
And that's a problem. The other issue with my opponent is Citizens for Limited Taxation has given him a 7% rating.
Mm-hmm.
So 93% of the time he's voted against the taxpayer. I think taxes in this district are very high, and I think folks
Yeah.
are overburdened. And I think that's
Okay.
a problem. And I feel that more of a balance at the legislature would work. And I also think you should vote for me because Governor Baker's endorsed me. When I
he
announced
has?
for this campaign, when I
Mhm.
announced for this campaign, it was very early on. He endorsed me immediately, and I was very pleased with that. He wants to work with me. There's lots of issues that we can tackle. One would be the opioid situation. I'd love to work with him on that, and work on Chapter 40B, work on lowering taxes in the area.
Yeah.
And so I feel for those reasons that I would be the better choice.
Okay. A bit off topic of the representative race, but do you plan to stay at this level for the rest of your career, or would you like to at some point run for a different type of office?
I think this would be a good fit for me. And besides that, I've really established good relationships with people in the district.
Yeah.
And that's primarily because I've door knocked.
Right.
I've door knocked. I've met almost every family in Stoneham and Winchester. I know obviously
Wow.
more in Stoneham because I live there and I've been there for
Right.
25 years, but in Winchester, people have been so kind and so receptive
Mm-hmm.
and ask great questions at the doors, and they're really concerned about their community, and they want someone that's going to take the job and stay there. And my perspective is that I can serve really, really well for the district, and I have an understanding of municipal government. I have listened to the people at the doors. It's not always about talking, it's about listening. And I know what their top issues are, and I know what they want me to address. And my opponent's been there. He's been there, and he's done nothing about some of these problems. And I've asked him to do something about 40B. I've asked him to go out there and do
Right.
something about it, but nothing's been done.
Okay.
And that's what you get when you have partisan politics
Mm.
going on. You don't have an independent thinker there that's going
Right,
to say,
yes.
hey, I don't have to be beholden to anyone. I can just serve the people, and that's really what I want to do.
Right. Okay. Kind of a tough question here. So, do you remember there was a flyer that went out to some homes and on the front of it showed a picture of some kids? Do you remember this one? And it said, they deserve a full-time state representative.
That's my card.
Yep.
Yep.
Okay. So, I'm going to kind of respond to that card.
Sure.
So, I know that Michael Day actually has a 100% voting record. So, what did you mean by that?
Okay. What I mean is that at the legislature, they generally vote once a week, not even for the full
Okay.
full calendar year, only when the House is in session, formal session. So my opponent is a partner in a law firm. And when you run for the seat, you have to disclose certain financial items. You have to fully disclose those. And so, I know that he's working at his law firm, and he's not working at the district as a state representative full time. And so I'm going to be full time. And so I think that if people want some of these problems solved, it's going to take a lot of hard work. It's going to take hard work to amend 40B. It's going to
Okay.
take hard work to fight Eversource. It's going to take hard work to work against the opiate situation. It's
Yeah.
going to take hard work, and someone has to commit the time. As a member of the Board of Selectmen, I've worked really hard to change things. And if you don't put the time in, you're not able to change things. And I
Right.
think that's a reflection of my opponent's record.
Okay. So how long does your term as Selectwoman go?
My term for Selectwoman goes until another year and a half.
Okay, so if you were to win, wouldn't you just in theory be working 2 jobs as well?
Well, the Board of Selectmen meets twice a month.
Oh,
It meets on Tuesday evenings every other week.
Okay.
And most of the members on the Board of Selectmen, all of them actually
Oh,
work
I see.
full-time jobs.
Oh, okay.
So
I see.
it's not a position that requires you to run a business or to show up every single
Okay.
day. And in the summer, we only meet once a month. So for 9
I
months a
see.
year, we meet twice a month.
Okay.
Great questions, though.
Thank you. Again, not related to this race, but something people might wonder is, as 2 very controversial candidates run for office, what do you think about the presidential race that's going on right now?
Well, I'm disappointed in the candidates that we have. I
Yeah.
mean, there's no question. I am sort of trying to decide what I would like
Okay.
to do. My family has their opinion already. And I wasn't able to watch the first debate. I haven't watched that
Okay.
yet. So I'm going to be watching
Yeah,
that.
you should watch it.
I am going to watch that. I haven't had a chance yet, but I am going to watch it. I look
Yeah.
forward to the second debate as well. And make my determination hopefully sometime this fall.
Okay. Still about that, just like, so do you agree with either candidate, or are you in
Well,
disagreement with both of them?
I disagree and agree on certain issues
Okay.
with both candidates. I think the more I watch, the more I'll
Yeah.
make a decision pretty soon. I'm hoping that people have decided in my race who to vote for already. So I think the presidency is
Yeah.
important.
Sorry, could you just elaborate on some of the issues?
Yeah, well,
Okay.
I think I'm bothered by the fact that taxes continue to rise. I'm bothered
Yeah.
by the fact that our national debt is $19 trillion. I have
Right.
3 children, and I don't want your generation having
Right.
to be placed with the burden on that. I think there's an awful lot of regulation that
Okay.
takes place also. I'm really worried about public safety, what's going on with the police in our country
a
and all
big
the
issue.
violence. And, that's something that concerns me. I think communities
Yeah.
need a strong police force. And I think the communities need to support their law enforcement officers.
Yeah.
And the candidates for president need to support the police.
Right.
They're not perfect, but try having a community without police and see what happens to it. They're critical to public safety.
Yeah.
And so seeing what's going on in the country and all the discord and all the problems,
Yeah.
I think we need some change there.
Okay. How do you think our governor, Charlie Baker, has done for our state during his term so far?
Well, I am a friend of Charlie Baker, and I
Okay.
do think that he's an excellent governor. I think he's trying to make some strides on a lot of different areas.
Yeah.
I agree with him on many things. I agree with him on rolling the sales tax back, as I mentioned earlier. He had an initiative to keep people that overdose in the hospital for 3 days, and I agree with him on that.
Okay.
I think that's important because what we're finding, and I know because my sons are 25 and 26 and they've lost friends to this epidemic.
Mhm.
And what we find is that when people come out, they have a high propensity to use drugs again. And I think that having folks stay in there for 3 days when they have an incident,
Yeah.
an overdose instance, I think is really important. So I agree with him on that. I agree with him the way he wants to reform things. I think that a lot of state agencies need reform.
Okay.
I also think that entitlement programs need reform. And I have that also on that card that you referenced earlier that talks
Yeah.
about me being full-time. If you flip it over,
Yeah.
you can read the platform, and that's on there. I believe in the open meeting, open records law in the legislature that passed that law, the open records, open meeting law, made them self-exempt from it.
Mhm.
So the same rules that we have to abide by on the Board of Selectmen and do everything out in the open, the legislature said, it's good for you at the town level, but we're not going to have it at the state level. So sometimes I think they act like Pharisees and do this because you need to, but we're not going to, and I don't think that's appropriate. So those are just some issues that I see eye to eye with the governor.
All right. And What can you overall promise you'll do for the people of Stoneham and Winchester?
I
if you're
can
elected?
promise you that on day one, I will file legislation to amend Chapter 40B.
Day one.
That law was enacted by the legislature
Okay.
a very long time ago.
Yep.
And the only folks that can fix it are the legislature. They're
Yep.
the only ones that can fix it. Communities are struggling across this Commonwealth. There's bipartisan support for that. It's happening in the western part of the state. It's happening in the North Shore and the South Shore. And there is a housing shortage, and we have to deal with that. But we have to deal with it in partnering with the Commonwealth, not with communities being told, we're going to build something. If you don't like it, it's going to be 40B. It costs communities a lot of money to litigate
Right.
this, and it's taxpayer dollars that it uses to litigate it, and also the exacerbated costs, the education, the public safety. It costs communities, and
Yeah.
not only that, these developments don't stay affordable in perpetuity. There's a time limit on them,
Right.
and generally they change hands a lot too. So there are a lot of problems with it.
Okay. Is there anything else you'd like to say before we're done here?
Yeah, I would like to say that in terms of the marijuana question that's
Yep.
on the ballot, I don't support the legalization of marijuana with all the problems that we're having with drugs, especially in Middlesex County.
Okay.
I think it would be unwise for us at this point to legalize marijuana, and so that's something that I was hoping we were going to have an opportunity to talk about, but that's okay.
Oh,
At least
no,
you
we
have
can-
my opinion on that,
Yep.
on the record.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great. All right. I guess that's it then. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Keep up the good work.
Thank you.
Okay.
Saden Rude with America Tonight. This was Caroline Colarusso, candidate for state representative for the 31st Middlesex District and Selectwoman in Stoneham. Thank you.